Hello, this is Crispin Flintoff from Not the Andrew Marr Show. Before this video starts, I'd just like to ask if you'd subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because we will be covering the general election from a totally different perspective from what you get from the mainstream media. We'll be talking about the candidates who are taking on Labour and the Tories and pushing them all the way. So please subscribe and get updates. I'm really pleased to be joined on Not the Andrew Marr Show by Shanaz Saddique, who is standing for the Workers' Party in Oldham East and Saddleworth. How are you doing, Shanaz?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show, Crispin. Great to meet you.
I mean, I did see you in Rochdale, but I never actually spoke to you. But you were very busy in the by-election, weren't you, for George Galloway's victory? Can you tell us what you were doing up there? What was your role?
So basically, I was part of the campaign team. It was limited what I could do because unfortunately my father was in hospital at the time. But where possible, I was there, helped to put together a strategy, met up with the volunteers and met a lot of the Workers' Party volunteers for the first time. So really it was to put, in terms of use my experience, political experience, which I have over 30 years of sort of campaigning, working across the board on sort of protests and obviously within the sort of political spectrum as well, and lending a hand really in making sure that we got George elected there.
And what was your feeling when he was elected?
I think the first feeling was thank goodness it's over, and I think it was to me, and I've said this before, to me it was a cause. It was a cause in the sense that for people to feel that they had a real alternative to the mainstream parties, and to send that message out to people that mainstream parties, whoever they may be, whether they be red or blue, that you can't take people for granted, and you have to listen to them. And I think the fact that we were able to do that with a fantastic victory ahead of all the mainstream parties. In fact, I think George said it on the night, if you actually add up all the numbers of all the mainstream parties, he did better than all of them put together. And to me, as a political activist, human rights activist, it was an important message to send out there.
It was a good springboard on which the Workers' Party has built more campaigns for the general election. I mean, I believe hundreds and hundreds of people have put their names forward to stand
Absolutely.
for the Workers'
I think not just for the general election, but don't forget we've got the local elections around the corner. So what it's done, it said to people that there is hope out there. When people think that, well, if you don't vote for Labour or don't vote for the Tories, I mean, Liberal Democrat has always been sort of here and there, that what's the point of voting? So there's a lot of disaffected people out there. I think what it's done, it's challenged the establishment and the narrative out there that you have to belong to a mainstream party and have that badge to be able to say that you are a politician or you're involved in politics. It's removed that. I think it's totally removed that. And what it said to people is that your vote matters. Use your vote consciously, and you can make a difference. So the Workers' Party, I think, has put working class politics back on the map. I think it's done that. You know, no one can argue about that. The fact that we had the Prime Minister that came out and soon after to the things that he sort of concocted and all that, further dividing communities. The local elections, I think, will be the next sort of goal that we've got in making sure that the Workers' Party are there to be seen, and not just with the Workers' Party, but the alliances out there, the independents out there who are still not sure. I've still got to go through that, you know, in their own minds and win hearts and minds of people. But coming after the 2nd of May, the 3rd of May is going to be something that I believe is going to be written in history. And all credit goes to the Workers' Party, that you can make a difference. And that will pave the way, I believe, for people like myself, who are prospective candidates for the general election, because that will give us a real force and a real focus to make sure that people do understand what we're about. And it's not just a one win. It will win for thousands of people, but also hundreds of parliamentarians across the country.
And you know, in Lancashire and the old mill towns there, I mean, Rochdale being the one that we've just seen. I mean, Oldham
Yeah.
is a neighbour of Rochdale, obviously. Would you say that Oldham has a similar kind of demographic, but also similar issues that the local population need to address?
If you actually look at Rochdale and you look at Oldham, and in particular Oldham East and Saddleworth, you see the demographics are very similar. You have those areas predominantly working class, very poor. In fact, we just learned, or just a few days ago, it was in the press, it's probably one of the most deprived cities in the country. And on top of that, you've got certain pocket holes where you've got Muslim communities, but then you've got those communities that may not belong to any faith or any sort of particular background, but have the same problems. I mean, what are our problems, Crispin? Our problems are poverty, lack of jobs, problems within the education system. I mean, I myself have spent 18 years within statutory sector. I was an FE lecturer. I went into the private sector. So, you know, I'm a former principal of a private girls' school. So I understand education. I'm a mother, I have children and grandchildren. They're the same issues. We worry about how we're going to feed our families. We worry about how we're going to educate them. We worry about crime and deprivation on our streets. We worry about all those things. If you look at any community, and in particular, if you do the comparison between the two, they are very similar. And you know, this morning, I go back to this morning because it's still very new, fresh in my mind. When I stood there and I was talking to the people outside the state, and that's what people were talking about. They were talking about the poverty. They go, yes, you're talking about what's happening in Gaza, but what we need to concentrate on is jobs within Oldham. What we need to concentrate on is fixing the education system within Oldham and making sure that people, our youth and our young generation are getting ready and are going to be able to look after the young folk. I mean, look at the state of our hospitals. Look at the waiting list. I was talking to one resident who is actually from Clarksfield, within one of the areas within that constituency, and he's been waiting, I think, 6 months to get on to find a dentist. He had a temporary bill. I mean, anybody who's been to the dentist knows you don't really want to go there. And it rings every single day to try and get an appointment. He can't afford to go private. How many of us can afford to go private? They're the same issues, Crispin, that happen, that every day we hear about. And it's very easy to sort of dismiss them and blame somebody else. But in reality, this particular constituency has been, you know, in terms of managed, if I use that word, by the Labour Party for decades. And the people that are voted from them, simple working class people that are basically trying to earn a decent living, they just don't know what to do anymore, and they're totally disaffected.
Well, we want to help you in this election. So how can people help you to win?
I think one thing that they can do is to touch base with us. I think after the 2nd of May, first of all, I want to say good luck to everybody that's standing up, all those people across, in particular in Oldham and Saddleworth, Oldham East and Saddleworth. And obviously we've got the West Side as well. We've got over 20 candidates that are standing as independents. So first of all, please help them. What we hope to be able to see that they will then move over to the Workers' Party. The general people out there, we will be reaching out, but please reach out. You know, I'm sure we're going to put this on social media. Send me a message. I am more than happy to sit with people and listen to them now. We've not formally gone into any election campaign, but it's about building relationships. It's about building bridges. And I think that's the most important thing. I'm somebody who's willing to listen. I may not like what I hear. I may not even agree with what I hear, but I will listen and I will reflect upon that. And I think if we can do that, that will be the greatest thing that we can achieve. And it's not just certain communities. It's not just a particular community. If I become the parliamentarian, I hope for that particular constituency, it will be for the whole of that constituency, and every person will matter to me and does matter to me, in fact. And I think that's the main thing, is getting that message out and raising that awareness that this is the right decision in terms of moving across to the Workers' Party, because we are the real force that is going to be speaking up for people, ordinary people, that have been ignored for such a long time, Crispin.